Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of the Going Over Big Time podcast. I am Mike Charlip, and I am joined by, as always, the fantastic Alan. And today is going to be a. I don't want to use the word negative, but we're not going to be very happy in this episode.
No, I didn't think you would be, Mike, judging from really the last 2 weeks that the wrestling industry has been exposed to, or at least with
And
WWE, as far as
just in
yeah.
general, this has been a very rough week in wrestling, but also in kind of the world. We lost Carl Weathers. That hurt. Uh, Apollo Creed, Chubbs, all the things that you remember him from, but that was rough. And then on top of that, we had all of this stuff happening in WWE specifically. The biggest one, I think, of course, is the Vince McMahon news, which is the first thing we're going to discuss today. Um, of course, there was already some stuff out there about Vince McMahon, about a unnamed at the time, former employee who he apparently had sexual relations slash he all these things that came out. Then a lawsuit dropped last week. um the employee in question was revealed to be Janelle Grant, which her name had been out there already due to other people who didn't get consent to put her name out there. But there's a huge lawsuit that has all these details, very specific details of things that Vince made her do or uh, made her do with other people in her already having um when she got the job, she was already in a bad place because she had a big family loss, and she was being taken advantage of for uh career advancement, basically. So this lawsuit came out. Uh then John Laurinaitis, who is also mentioned in this lawsuit, um went out of his way to say that he was also a victim and that he did not want to do any of those things, that Vince McMahon made him, which is a blatant lie. Um, then, right after that happened, literally like the day after that happened, we find out that now Vince McMahon is under federal investigation. So, this is definitely going to go to court. This is not going to get thrown out. This is not looking good for Vince McMahon in particular, but also John Laurinaitis. And um, without really mentioning his name in the lawsuit, also Brock Lesnar, who was mentioned in detail but not by name.
Yeah. Mike, I took the liberty of actually reading the entire lawsuit, and
Uh huh.
um yeah, I think it would be best to just go by your descriptions because the details outlined in this lawsuit by Miss Grant are just some of the really most disgusting kind of things you could imagine what
Yeah.
a person would do to another, especially someone with position of power and influence and money to
Mm-hmm.
someone who was completely in a various ways psychologically and physically subservient to him. Um, Frankly, I mean, I grew up watching wrestling, and I started watching WWE because of Austin versus McMahon. Like that was the
Hmm.
rivalry that really sparked my fandom into this genre.
And a lot of
And
people in our age range. I
yeah,
mean,
and just thinking back at the whole Mr. McMahon, bat evil corporate boss character, and
mhm,
some of the things he did on television, like the one that stands out to me was like making Trish Stratus go down on all fours and bark like a dog, and then following that, various skits involving women half his age doing God knows what, and then I just
yeah.
reading through this lawsuit, I'm like, oh wow, he's just really like made art to imitate life, or the other way around. It's
I
like
mean, and there was even like all these different things that you would hear behind the scenes of like Tori Wilson being like afraid to dance on television, and so he put on like a demonstration for her. And what was there was so many the Stephanie McMahon storyline he pitched when she was pregnant, where he wanted to do an
oh,
incest angle where
oh my
he was the dad. And then when she turned that down, she's like, "Oh, well then let Shane do it." Like, why would you want to do that in the first place, let alone. So there's all these little hints I think that we had over the years of Vince McMahon just being, without lack of a better term, fucked up in the head.
yeah, I mean, various like people from Jim Ross to Jim Cornette to whoever that worked for him before, like they mentioned, yeah, bring any pee poo, any joke involving defecation or, avoiding of your bowels or sort of some human bodily function, he'll go for it right away. That's
Mhm.
why puking. That's always a popular one. So
Mhm.
the man's got a very unique sense of humor, a sense of like humor or just sense of what he believes is entertainment. But
Mhm.
that was just really scratching on the surface concerning these allegations in this lawsuit. And
Uh,
frankly,
yeah.
it's uh, it's disturbing, I think, for the rest of his family also, because you think like he's got this is a grandfather, he's got grandchildren, you know
Mhm.
one of them, how is that going to affect his future career? I'm talking about one of Shane's sons who's just
In
started
college. In
college football
college.
in college football, like he just
Yeah.
hasn't even started his career yet.
Yeah.
You talk about Brock Lesnar's daughter is currently an amateur wrestler in the
Yeah.
yeah, and it's like some of this stuff is going to trickle. A lot of this stuff is going to trickle down to the
Yeah.
generation after and the next one,
So
right?
without really going into like heavy detail, because I don't think we're in the we are the people to do that. I mean, um Brock Lesnar being involved in particular, um he was mentioned in the lawsuit as a former UFC fighter turned a wrestler turned for UFC fighter who was promised something in return for re-signing. I believe that was, I don't have the exact terminology, but it was along those lines. And there was talk around the Royal Rumble. All of this was happening week of the Royal Rumble. So the Royal Rumble was kind of being overshadowed by this dark cloud that is Vince McMahon. And
And you may have forgotten to mention it, but Vince McMahon effectively the day before the Royal Rumble resigned all his positions in WWE and TKO. Um, he is though he at this point, this is not like when he first left the
yeah,
company back in July of 2022. He no longer is a majority shareholder. There's no way for him to push his way back into the company. Um, he's effectively resigned all any. So basically, for the first time in 40 plus years, Vince McMahon is finally out of WWE.
no
Which
McMahon. No
no
McMahon.
McMahon currently does this, and yeah, no McMahon by blood is currently involved with WWE. Stephanie's gone, Shane's gone, Linda's gone. The only one that's left that is by a McMahon by marriage, effectively, is Hunter, Triple
Yeah,
H. And
yeah.
if you believe some of the other dirt sheets, they're saying, you know, we're not sure how much Triple H knew about McMahon's perversions. He was very close with
Well,
McMahon. I
and
mean,
going off of that, they had a Royal Rumble press conference right after the Royal Rumble took place. And there was speculation that they were going to cancel this press conference because obviously, with Triple H being there, he's going to be asked about this. He knew that. He had to have known that. And he did not prepare a statement. He did not prepare anything. He just was taking questions when it was his turn to be up there by himself. I mean, even Cody. So Cody got asked about this and did a better job at talking about it than Triple H did. And granted, yes, Cody has business experience being when he was in AEW, management experience, but he's not management here. So if the person that is in a management position doesn't know how to handle these types of situations, then he should not be up there.
That was shocking to me. Like he would like I think I told you offline. Like the best way to do this, or maybe I told a coworker or something. The best way to do this, he Triple H should come out, even if he had to come out. I mean, first of all, you said they should just cancel the whole thing. Probably would have been a good idea as well. But
Mm-hmm.
he should just have come out first and addressed it head on, saying these are very troubling allegations. We need to listen to survivors. We need to listen to survivors and hear what they have to say and let them have their voice. And and he should say something like, "I'm sorry that this happened to Miss Grant, and
Mm-hmm.
um, we will be
Yeah.
transparent and be fully open in terms of handling the situation." Um, and but I
Yeah.
think in terms of a legal standpoint, I think he would have just made a thing about this is being dealt with by the internal legal departments, and we will have more information forthcoming when we have it available. But for now, I want to move on to Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
You know,
But he also did not state that um he didn't say anything like that at all.
I
And
wish
he
he said
and
something like that. That's what I meant.
and
Yeah,
he also didn't state like, "Oh, we're not taking questions about this subject." If they would have at least done that, he wouldn't have looked stupid when he was asked questions about it.
right.
Because when he was asked questions about it, he tried to deflect it and say we're trying to focus on the positives. And then he said that he didn't read the lawsuit, which has to be a lie. Has to be. That's his father-in-law.
Even if he didn't read it, he probably would have read it as a summary of it, or he gotten one of his aides or one of his lackeys somebody summarize this for me or whatever. And
Yeah.
I mean, the most telling things would be the evidence of the text that Vince sent to this woman, which are
Yes.
extremely graphic and detailed that I don't want to repeat here.
No, we will not
No,
we
no,
will
we're
not be
not repeating.
repeating
No, it's
we will
just
not be
stuff that you
repeating any of those
frankly, it's
details.
stuff you don't. Yeah,
If you want to read the lawsuit, you can. It's
it's
public.
in public. Yep.
Um it's
But
very
yeah, just
long.
going back to your point, it was very badly handled. He should have been better briefed on the subject. And being someone in his position now, learning about how to deal with wrestling media and public relations, this just goes beyond just wrestling. Right, this is a PR
And
nightmare.
even Shawn Michaels handled it better.
Yeah,
And Shawn Michaels has no media training.
right.
He has publicly stated that he has zero media training and he still handled it better than Triple H. So I understand that, as we mentioned numerous times, that is his father-in-law. He's probably very flustered about the subject in general. Um, Probably not wanting to have to talk about it any further than he has to already. And but that all of that was just a bad look for him. And they, like you said, should have had a statement prepared, and they didn't. But this, all of this in general, like affects the history of wrestling as a whole. Because, I mean, and I mean, I don't think it's going to completely have the Benoit effect, but it's going to have some kind of thing. Like you
The,
can't just
the Benoit effect was different. The Benoit effect really affected only one guy, and
yes,
really troubling end to his career and his life. That
yes,
sadly took the life of his own family as well. That really affected only his legacy and his history within the WWE. So if you go back to like history of Royal Rumble winners, who won the 2004 Royal
they
Rumble?
never
I
talk
don't
about
know.
they never talk
I
about
don't
oh
know,
04.
somebody. With
Yeah.
Vince McMahon, I feel that it hasn't hit me personally as yet. The reverberations. I mean, for all I know, WWE is still there. Wrestling is still there. There are companies outside that I
Mm-hmm.
frankly enjoy more, and I'm sure you're the same way.
Well,
But in
we will
terms
get
of
into that later.
yeah,
We
but in terms of just the history of this company, WWE, that the current way it exists now, this would not have been built without Vince McMahon's guide influence and direction of how he wanted to break off from being just a regional territory
yeah.
into this
The
global superpower, right?
the last 40 plus years
Yeah, it was always
are because of Vince McMahon.
yeah.
Everything that we saw in those years is because of Vince McMahon. Hulkamania, Steve Austin, The Rock, Triple H, the Attitude Era, any of any and all of that is because of Vince McMahon. And
So
you could
many characters, iconic characters came out like Undertaker and yeah, like you mentioned, Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior. A lot of these things was shaped by McMahon's direction, and like they may have
yes,
come in as somebody else, but they're like Vince would be like, okay, why don't you do it like this, and why don't you rename you like that, and you go and do this, it'll
and
work. And
you can say what you want about the last maybe 20 years
yeah,
about WWE and how the creative has not been great or how storylines just haven't mattered and anything like that. But none of it wouldn't be at the level that it's at without him. And like wrestling's most successful period was built around, as you mentioned earlier, the reason that most people are into wrestling, which is Steve Austin versus Vince McMahon. And you can't just erase that. It's it's a it's a linchpin in the history of wrestling. It's a it's like a y- it it is the reason that wrestling is as big as it is. And you can't just erase it all. Obviously there will have to be some kind of caveat in inserted into everything in the history of WWE now, where we say like obviously Vince McMahon was involved in all of this. I mean, he was the commentator for the majority of the 80s to the 2000.
yeah. His
So
his voice was the voice of the show for
yeah.
you know.
So it's impossible to throw that all away and just ignore it. Like, and again, it's not like Benoit. It's not the same thing. But you will just have to acknowledge that what he has done is very wrong, and just ignore that when enjoying the wrestling as a whole. And I mean, there's been other instances in history, obviously, where we had to put the art before the artist type of thing. It's the same. I would say it's in that same vein.
Michael Jackson, for
Yeah,
example.
exactly.
To a lesser extent, Bill Cosby, although I don't know if it's the same level as Michael Jackson.
Well,
You know,
yeah. I mean, his
I mean, we've
shows.
had a series of actors that have fallen. Their reputations have been left in tatters because of Me Too stuff, right? Kevin
Yeah,
Spacey, for example.
yeah.
But we mentioned that McMahon's legacy in WWE, like WrestleMania itself, is a McMahon creation. Like
Hmm.
we're coming up to WrestleMania 40, 40 years of WrestleMania. It was all because of Vince McMahon, really.
And this will be the first one where he's not involved in some way.
Yeah, it's and 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 it's because he's not involved in some way. frankly, it sort of led to this. I guess what we would be talking about if you want to, unless you want to continue with the McMahon stuff, it's the
Um,
kind of this sort of domino effect that's led to current WrestleMania decisions
yes.
as of this recording.
So I would say that we have said everything that we need to say about this topic, and again, we are not the people to go into detail about this. I think you're going to see a lot about this on the news in the coming year, honestly, because this will probably go to
Yeah.
trial. This will probably and before we move on from it, we didn't mention that some other news came out about this where he signed an NDA or
Mm.
multiple NDAs, but did not put them through the company. He just signed them himself,
Yeah.
and
Um,
he didn't pay her all the money.
this is like
So
so fucking stupid, honestly. Like I
so
hate to laugh at this, but like this is just like amateur hour at this point. Like you're a multi-millionaire, like with all the money in the world, and you couldn't afford to pay a $3 million settlement. I mean, you just like half-assed it, and then like, of course, like she's gonna go back on the NDA and then like file a lawsuit. You didn't honor your agreement on an
yeah,
agreement that you had no legal basis to honor in the first to write in the first place too.
yeah.
So
So because he didn't pay her all the money, now
yeah,
the NDAs could be and most likely will be considered null and void.
yeah, who knows who else will come out of the woodwork? And I think Janelle Grant's lawyer went on the media and said there are more people that will be coming. She said like, yeah, I'm being
Well,
called
and even there's
other accusers.
history. There's history of like a referee in the '80s
Yeah,
who
yeah, that was the
and
earliest one I think that's been recorded.
uh
She was one of the probably the first female referee in wrestling history back in 1986.
yeah,
And McMahon allegedly pushed her into his limo and demanded like favors to be done, and she didn't do it. And
yep,
then as a result, she was blackballed from the industry.
yeah.
She was kicked out.
And
It was
then you got Ashley Massaro, who like she the same thing really.
yeah.
She
Unfortunately, she's passed away recently. So
yeah, well yes,
yeah,
unfortunately we lost her,
her,
and that is very unfortunate, and the fact that her story was out there but was never really taken seriously, and the fact that she's gone now and not able to speak up for herself is very sad. And yeah, so there has been other instances where and we as fans didn't really uh do anything because we couldn't. We just swept it under the rug like everything else, because Vince McMahon was always the guy who was in charge and could just do that. But now he's not, and it's not looking good for him. And it will be very interesting in not not in a good way of where this is going to go. Um, but going off of that, you mentioned that him not being involved really is playing into our next topic, which we are probably going to spend the most time on.
hmm
Uh, so the Royal Rumble happened,
hmm
and Cody, Cody Rhodes, won his second Royal Rumble in a row. And after the match, he pointed at Roman and said, "I'm coming for you." Then Monday Night Raw comes around. Seth Rollins does this passionate promo about how the world title is considered the workhorse title, and that Dusty Rhodes was the workhorse champion, and that honoring his legacy would be to fight for this belt, because Roman's belt is the Hollywood belt, and he's never around to defend it. Then that brings us to SmackDown. Time of recording last night. Roman Reigns does this promo in the ring before Cody comes out and says that Seth Rollins' championship does not matter, and that Seth wishes he was in he was holding my championship and making the amount of money that I make, which happens to be 10 times more than him. So even before Cody comes out, he's diminishing the importance of the other championship, which wouldn't be around if it wasn't for the fact that Roman is never on TV. And so Cody comes out after this statement and gets on the mic and basically says to Roman that all of this has been about finishing the story, winning the championship that was taken away from his father, the championship that he never really got to hold and never got to celebrate holding, and that he wants to finish the story, but not at WrestleMania. And he says, I've been meeting with a lot of counsel, and one of them that I spoke to is here tonight. And out comes The Rock. He whispers something to Cody in his ear. Cody goes from smiling to anger in seconds, and then just leaves. And then The Rock has a stare down with Roman Reigns as the show goes off the air, and they put a graphic on the screen that says WrestleMania kickoff press conference this Thursday with Rock and Roman front and center. So, after this happens, the internet goes into an anger frenzy like
I yeah,
no other.
I was
Like
on a
no other.
I I was out last night, so I didn't watch SmackDown, but I turned my internet back on my phone, and the amount of text you and Tanner, our friend, exchanged between you two was just I was like, what the hell just happened? And I read them like, oh my god. I mean, I went back and watched the full segment. It was like I couldn't understand. This is supposed to be the post McMahon era level of booking. At this point, it's not about Triple H being like uh held down by Vince. He's just makes bad decisions in some major storylines. Like this is even worse than like Daniel Bryan. This is even worse than Punk. This is just like Cody, the first two-time back-to-back winner of a Royal Rumble in the quarter of a century, and you have your shot at WrestleMania, and you just hand it off to a part-timer who's 50 plus years old, just for what? Like for a payoff that doesn't require a title. Um, like I'm mad, but I'm not like I'm just confused as a fan. I'm like, where's my investment in this? This was not what I was invested in. And yeah,
So,
you mentioned like how the internet was just exploded. Like you got memes of Cody apparently gonna do a spoof of Sting in the rafters. Apparently,
mhm.
as a shot at how like he was screwed. Brian Alvarez was just said flabbergasted. You said you were very thankful of the existence of New Japan and AEW, which I don't blame you for. Even some of your even some of the people who are I'm not gonna name these guys, but they're obviously WWE shills and stockholders, so they have
Mhm.
a very vested interest in being pro WWE. Even they were saying, "Yeah, this is terrible booking. It needs to be called out." And like, this is absolute trash. Like some of
The
these are
list goes
these are
on.
like WWE stands that are saying this is trash booking. What the hell did you do?
Yep.
And it's like
The list of people that you could eh, eh, nobody is happy about this. And the The problem is that if Cody had won the championship at WrestleMania 39,
Yep, you're gonna.
and
Yep.
this is coming up again because it's relevant. If Cody had won the championship at WrestleMania 39 and then they did this, nobody would be angry because the championship would not be on the line. Therefore, we would not care that Cody is getting screwed over.
Yeah, let
Bec-
me go. Let me indulge your backtracking of history. Yes, I have always said, and I believe we are in agreement of this, that Cody should have gone over WrestleMania 39. He should have held up both titles. He should have just looked at both of them, and then he should have just thrown the blue one back at Roman and left with the WWE Championship. That's the one he came for.
yep.
That would continue Roman's reign, pun not intended, going into this WrestleMania. He would have had programs with Jay, Jimmy, possibly Solo, just to because there would have been a bloodline civil war within, and then finally Roman would have cleared the sweep and said, "I'm still head of the table," until Rock pops up and says, "What the fuck you talk about? I am a movie star. I was the first tribal chief for before you were even a relevant piece of crap. Like I've been making money for the family, not just in wrestling, outside of wrestling. So who the hell is the real head of
Hmm.
the table?" That was the title that they should be fighting for at WrestleMania 40, the head of the table, right?
Exactly.
I mean, you want to throw the Universal Championship in there at that point because Roman in our reality would still have it. Whatever, go ahead. Um, now we have this. We were supposed to get a rematch of Cody versus Roman, and um, what was expected was CM Punk versus Seth Rollins because
Yes.
CM Punk was supposed to be slotted into the Elimination Chamber, get the shot at the world title at WrestleMania against Seth, which at that point made sense because Seth is currently dealing with a bit of an injury and might need some time off, even if he might be healed by
Hmm.
WrestleMania. Um, but unfortunately, Punk tore his tricep during the Royal Rumble,
Again.
and it seems, based on the last couple of things you've sent me, the only benefit at this point is Drew McIntyre's heel work on social media because it
Hmm.
has just been on fire.
Yes.
He has been making light of how he was the one responsible for the Punk tricep tear, which
Hmm.
will lead to a future storyline down the road. But back to my point, because Punk has been written out of booking, and on the separate matter of the Vince McMahon lawsuit as how it affected Brock Lesnar has also been taken out of booking. So you got both CM Punk and Brock Lesnar having been written out of WrestleMania. They had to scramble and figure out something, but unfortunately, this was probably the worst idea that they come up with in order to salvage this. And I know you and I both, I believe, Rock fans. We are fans of The Rock. But
Uh-huh.
from what I've read, it seems that Rock is flexing his own creative muscle at this point, or his own
Yes.
political power in the company now that he's on the board of TKO, and saying, yeah, he pushed for this match with Roman. Not only that, he's pushing for him to win the match, which is like,
So there was speculation going around, and I don't know if this has been confirmed, that this was already put in place before the Royal Rumble.
oh,
So if that's the case, then Cody should not have won the Royal Rumble because you put him in the spot of of pointing at Roman Reigns immediately after the match and saying that he's going to finish the story. The finishing the story for Cody is winning that belt. That's his story. So you telling me that he's going to finish the story right after he wins the Royal Rumble and then doing this not only makes the crowd not only makes Cody look stupid, makes everybody else look stupid for believing it would happen.
yeah,
And
I mean,
it
it
also makes Seth Rollins look stupid because he's begging Cody to fight him now, and Cody doesn't want that belt. He has blatantly said that on TV.
not only that, you had Roman go out and just say, "Oh yeah, you think you're the workhorse title? Everybody who's challenged you, little brother, I beat already." So it's like, you kind of just you got the other top guy to diminish the championship on in your same company. So it's you've devalued your own product here. And
And
like,
then
if you're gonna give me Seth Rollins versus Cody Rhodes, which I saw like 3 times in 2022, including the one where he wrestled with a torn pec, like
yeah,
I
and he still
I
won.
don't,
And he still won.
yeah. But in
So
terms of like both these title matches, it's almost already a foregone conclusion because factoring out the Rock's alleged request to win the match, I don't think so. I don't think that's happening.
no,
You're gonna put a world you're gonna end the longest reign title reign in the modern era on because of a 50-plus-year-old part timer.
no.
After all the top guys that this monster run that Roman's been on that he's
Yeah.
beaten already, and
So you
yeah,
have an injured Seth,
hmm
and then you have a part timer versus a part timer in the main event of the entire show. You're telegraphing the finish of both of your championship matches because there is absolutely no way that Seth is winning. Absolutely no way. And if he does, then he has to be healthy enough to continue to defend his belt. And I don't think he is.
no, no. Even though he said that this was thankfully not his ACL, otherwise that would have required a year. It was only
Yes,
his MCL, which would require only approximately 6 months. And he said he would be back in time for WrestleMania, but then I think he's working through this Mania match in order to like be written off and be taken time off to heal, right? Because I think
exactly.
he deserves it.
Exactly.
But yeah, you've telegraphed the ending of this story, and it's like after like I'm imagining Cody holding up the World Heavyweight Championship, and I'm thinking, um, okay, so but it doesn't matter to me at this point. Like it would matter to me more like in an alternate reality, if Cody had stayed in AEW, if he went on to challenge Hangman at Double or Nothing in 2022 and just broke his word that he would never challenge for the AEW World Title, that would be way more interesting than this.
Yeah. And it has just created this
Yeah, I cannot.
negativity towards WrestleMania as a whole. There has been tons of people
The
who have
the
said that they
yeah, it's this current stat I see on WWE's YouTube page is that the Rock Roman segment has received more negative reactions than positive reactions. Approximately
yes,
87,000 positives and 400,000 negative thumb downs.
they showed the video at a live event and it was all booze. And
And I believe I think Tanner just sent this to us, or you, maybe it was you, but or maybe it went through somewhere else. But USA Today, one of the largest news outlets in the United States, has started talking about this. As has TMZ, but TMZ
yeah,
TMZ talks about celebrity gossip, but
yeah.
like, when was the last time you heard a wrestling storyline making it into mainstream news outlets? That's like,
And it was one of the number one trends in the United States of America less than 24 hours later.
it might
It,
still be trending. It's probably still trending now. The hashtag We Want Cody is the number one sports trend as far as I can see.
yeah.
Um,
Um
Justice
it
for Cody is another one.
it
Um,
has been nothing but negativity. I've seen people saying that they want to sell their WrestleMania tickets. I've seen I mean, people say they want to cancel the network all the time when there's a bad decision.
yeah, yeah,
But
but
but and then like I wrote this in a tweet and I fully believe it that WWE has this habit of building up all this good uh you know stuff going on in the company. They revigorate the fans' interest. They do all these things that the fans love, like Bailey and this stuff that's going on with her and the stuff with Drew. They do all these things to get the fans excited about something. And then they do one atrociously bad decision that throws all of that away. They do this all the time and don't care that they do it all the time. Because WWE has never been for the fans. It's been for the money the entire time. And that's why they're doing this. For the money.
You hear all these criticisms all the time about how AEW is not like it has like half empty arenas, or they're like their stock is tanking, or well not stock but their revenues are tanking, or they're not making as much money, and the only way they're staying afloat is because the cons have so much money. But on the contrast, AEW consistently puts out almost fantasy matches that matches are enjoyable, storylines that are it may take a long time to build, but when the payoff comes around it's like whoa, and it's like I can only think of like only one or two bad decisions made that were major. But even if I say they were major, they didn't really affect my whole perception of the company. Like the last time the AEW came up with such a bad idea was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre death match between
Yeah.
Jeff Hardy and Jeff Jarrett,
But
and
that
that
was
and I
just a
mostly
thing.
laughed. And I mostly laughed through that because I was so this is so fucking
Yeah.
stupid.
But that didn't affect the entire
Perception,
foundation
yeah,
of the company, the
right.
entire perception of
We're
the
not
company.
calling for Tony Khan's head or anything like that,
No.
right? No,
AEW at least puts out these stories that people are invested in and then pays them off the way that people want them to pay them off.
yeah,
But WWE doesn't do that. WWE will tell you, "Oh, we're only in the 5th inning of the Roman story, and don't worry, Cody is gonna finish the story. Don't worry. This was all done for a reason. He lost to 39 for a reason." Oh yeah, what was the reason? Because I'm not finding that reason right now. I don't know what that reason is. Because he's not challenging for the title at 40 and not winning. So, what was the reasoning behind him losing at 39 other than nothing? Nothing. And all of this is turning people off from WWE as a whole. And obviously I've mentioned this numerous times. I don't watch SmackDown anymore because of Roman Reigns' reign. There is no champion on SmackDown full time. Not even a US champion. There's a part-time US champion. What reason do I have to watch SmackDown if the world champion only shows up every 4 months and then you have a US champion that only shows up every 2 months? Why should I watch SmackDown? And now, because most likely Roman is beating The Rock, there's going to be another year of this. Because Cody's not going to beat Roman at fucking Backlash. Cody's not going to beat Roman at random not
so
top
yeah,
5 pay-per-view.
it's like somebody made a suggestion that yeah, Cody's gonna challenge for. I mean, I think the idea that they're saying is this: Cody's gonna put his WrestleMania or the title shot he got from the Rumble in his back pocket, and then cash it in, quote unquote, at some special event at Madison Square Garden, because that's where Dusty apparently
Uh-huh.
almost won the championship. But like,
Yeah.
I don't know what shows that are on the horizon that are being held at MSG that would be like to that level, unless it's like some special pay per view. Unless they put SummerSlam at Madison Square Garden, which I don't think is happening.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just thinking like there's got to be some. I think I'm feeling like because of like podcasts like this and all this negative backlash that somebody in TKO is seeing, okay, I think we made a mistake here. We need to fix this. Hopefully, but at the press conference they fix it. I'm not sensing that. The only way they could salvage this is that they put Rock and Roman night one. Roman beats the Rock in like I don't know 10 minutes, let's just say, and then out
Mhm.
comes Cody and he says like, okay, you finish your story of the Rock. Now I want to finish the story, and then we move on to night two. I mean, that's the only way they could salvage. I'm not even saying that
Yeah.
this would be a miracle booking. I'm just like this is the way they could salvage this
There's
mess.
there's absolutely no way that Roman is working twice in 2 nights. There's once There's no way it's happening, and it is. I mean, they made a shirt of Cody Rhodes in the style of WrestleMania 7, and it says "Finish the story" in WrestleMania font. You don't put that out unless he's finishing the story at WrestleMania. And finishing the story is beating Roman. Again, there is absolutely not a single person that wants to see Cody versus Seth for a fourth time. Nobody. Nobody wants to see that. Cody has beaten him every time. Cody doesn't want that belt, and nobody wants to see that match. Now, I don't understand how anybody could want to see The Rock in a championship match in 2024. And the there is not a lot of people that do. And
You mentioned a lot of times that as athletically fit the Rock as Dwayne Johnson still is at his age, with all the businesses and projects that he's into, he's not a full-time wrestler. He was. You
uh,
mentioned he did a spine buster on Jinder Mahal in a segment a few weeks ago, and he was blown up just after that. Somebody
out of
made
breath. Out of
somebody
breath.
made a
So
joke. Somebody made a joke that his quad was going to basically fall off the bone after a headlock, and showed a clip of a drumstick, chicken drumstick, with all the meat just sliding off the bone.
mhm.
And I was like, I don't think it's gonna be that bad, but still, it's like I don't know, man. I mean, it's like he
So
looks
and
good, but
and you had this ready-made story right there. You could have just had Cody say like, "Oh, I'm challenging you, Roman, at WrestleMania," and he mentions on screen that for the first time since last WrestleMania that he was cheated out of the match because Solo Sikoa was banned from ringside and then came back out.
yeah, that was silly.
And nobody has acknowledged that since, by the way. And the story could have been it's right there. The story could have been, "Oh, I'm going to challenge you again, but this time I'm going to have help because The Rock is going to be ringside to make sure that that doesn't
Yeah,
happen again."
that would
And
be much more acceptable.
and then and then you have The Rock basically say, "Oh, you're a failure because you lost the championship at WrestleMania. So now you aren't the tribal chief anymore." And then you set up the actual match at next year's WrestleMania. And then you have this match for no championship like it's supposed to be. And nobody would be angry. Not a single person.
Yeah, it's one thing where if you make some decision that is like having the fans going, I don't like that. I'm not, yeah, that. I mean, good Buddha character, but you're just actively enraging your support base, the people who pay to come to your
Yeah.
show or pay for your product. It's a very strange way to run a business, I think.
hmm
And
And this is past being disappointing because usually WWE does things that disappoint the fans. This is beyond that. This went straight to anger by majority of people, straight to anger, and they have to see that this is bad. That this is not good publicity because obviously they needed some good publicity for what we talked about earlier. They are not getting it with this at all, not
that's
even a
why
little
that's
bit.
why that's why I still feel that they'll somehow salvage this in some way. That they'll like try to put the shit back in the can or the toothpaste back in the tube. I'm not as optimistic it will completely quell all the anger like coming from you and um, all the people that really were outraged by this. Just after
I
seeing that they
mean,
how
I
massively they fucked this up.
I mean, go look at
They kind of
Conrad Thompson. Go look at Conrad Thompson's Twitter, and you'll see exactly how I feel.
yeah, yeah, I'll try a quick search right now, but it's like I don't know. It's just really strange Yeah, look, I'm looking. Okay, I'm looking at this one tweet Conrad put out. Wow, this is long. So he says Conrad Thompson says, I don't understand how this is lost on so many people. 2 years, the story's been about Cody winning the title. It wasn't about beating Roman. It was about winning the belt his father never did. They centered their own video game around Cody finishing the story. It began 40 years of WrestleMania. Those promos aired less than 2 weeks ago. Several weeks ago, Rock had a promo about the head of the table, not the championship. Cody's story is about the title. Rock's story is about the bloodline. Yes, we could have had both at Mania. Now we don't, and it sucks. Make Cody winning the Rumble and being the basis of this finish the story campaign for the video game makes sense for the game makes sense for me now. I'm asking Rock being back is huge, but he doesn't need a title match for that story to be great. And what does it tell the kids who buy oh, this is even worse. And what does it tell kids who buy the Cody merch and play the video game? Give us both. Cody's getting the Daniel Bryan treatment at 30 is what is best for the long-term success of WWE,
Mm-hmm.
their live events, and their merch business.
And I saw somebody make this point. So on Twitter, there's that wrestling club that
Yeah.
Cody bought tickets for all of them to go to WrestleMania,
Oh God. Oh
and
my
now
God.
they're not going to see him finish the story. Literally, all of these people are invested in that one thing, and now everybody is shitting on WrestleMania 40. This is the biggest WrestleMania of all time. The 40th
Such a
WrestleMania.
milestone in the history of this business, and yeah,
And nobody cares anymore. And that isn't fair to everybody else on the card. Like I mentioned Bailey earlier. Bailey is finally getting the flowers that she deserves. And it's going to be attached to this WrestleMania that nobody wants to even watch anymore. Like I mentioned it earlier, there's people that have tickets that don't want to go anymore. And that's crazy. That is absolutely crazy.
how much do you chalk this up to? Like, I'm thinking back to when AEW the first pay per view, Double or Nothing, 2019. Cody coming out with a
Uh-huh.
sledgehammer and smashing that prop phone that Triple H uses. Um,
I don't think that
it's
has
like,
anything to do with it.
I'm trying to remember back when Cody tried to explain what that whole segment meant. Um, I couldn't remember his answer, and the only visual I have now is he's breaking Triple H's shit. Triple H is still pissed off 5 years going on, and
Yeah,
this
no,
is
I
the
don't.
revenge tour. And
No,
it's like
I don't see that being
at this point,
any.
I mean, the way this has unfolded, this booking, like, what's Cody's contract status? I have to ask that now. Like, is he
Uh,
staying?
I
Like,
mean,
like
there's
what
been
is the long term?
speculation.
Other than adding two more zeros to Cody's contract, like, why stay? What's the point?
Why should he stay? Why should he stay when the reason that he is here was
If
was
he's being
was
told
literally put into his lap and
if
taken away?
he's legitimately being told you're never going to be our number one guy because you're not a homegrown product. Rock and Roman are, and we credit you for leaving us and being successful somewhere else and literally starting a rival company, and then coming back here. But whereas Drew McIntyre, in that sense, didn't start his own company, but he was a success on his own and then came back, functioned much more well in the system now.
Mm-hmm.
Cody seems to be still, I think, still trying to find out where he's at, because he's stuck on
I'll
this Groundhog Day loop of winning the Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, either losing to Roman or not even fighting Roman now. Like, what he's still like trying to finish the story.
I'll I'll tell you exactly where Roman is. I mean, where Cody is.
Yeah,
He's the face of the fucking company. He is the most popular person in WWE. Every single person likes Cody. There is not a person that doesn't like Cody. And the fact of the matter is that you are saying without saying it, as a company, that we care more about having two part-time guys in the main event than the people that put in the work. And that is not good. Cody is there every single week. He does live events. He does autograph signings. He does it all for the betterment of this company.
Yeah, it's so strange. Like you do all of this for the betterment of your company, and the way you are rewarded is you're being pushed down. Like, you know, I gotta say, this is a legacy of McMahon's influence. As much as we credit Vince McMahon for building WWE to the way it is, the way he treated talent, I think, in the last 2 decades was like, oh, as soon as you get to the top, we're gonna cut your legs off from under you and throw you back down again.
And there's so many examples. I mean, Booker T at 19, uh, you know, there it I can't even think right now because I'm so angry. But um
Daniel Bryan,
I mean,
uh,
Daniel Bryan got screwed so
CM
many
Punk,
times
CM
until
Punk,
he could.
yeah,
So Daniel Bryan got screwed so many times to the point that he couldn't be screwed anymore. That and that was also their fault because at the time they never viewed Daniel Bryan as a star. Only we did. But because what we think doesn't matter to them, that doesn't matter. And that's what this is. That is exactly what this is. What we think does not matter to them. The difference is Vince is not the person that it matters to now.
yeah. We
It,
can't blame him anymore. He's gone. So this has to fall into somebody else's lap.
well,
Does it
now
fall?
now
Does it
it's
fall?
the it's the
Now it's
fault.
Triple H? Is Triple H's lap?
No,
Is
it's
it Nick Khan's lap? Is it
it's
Ari Emanuel's lap? Like I don't know.
it's the fault of a giant conglomerate
Yeah,
who wants to. It's the fault of a giant conglomerate that owns UFC and WWE that just wants to put on a good show for the sake of putting on a good show, not for the sake of the people that pay to watch it.
but by doing that, they're not even putting on a good show. Their idea, they wanted to put on a good show, but if you have people saying that this is gonna suck and that they're selling back, they're trying to get refunds for their tickets. How is that a good show?
And then you also have to put this into account. The last time that The Rock and Roman Reigns were in a ring together in Philadelphia was Royal Rumble
Oh my
2015,
god, that was
where
I'm remembering that, and it was like I felt the way you feel probably right now. That I was like, what the fuck is happening? It was like down to Roman being pushed around by Big Show and Corporate Kane. I'm like, those two assholes aren't going to win. Those two doofuses are not going to win this Rumble. It's like we're
yeah,
getting Roman shoved down our throat. It
and
took The
then
Rock to save him, and at that
yeah,
time, even The Rock couldn't get Roman over.
exactly. And
It was
now
just
now they're going to main event the biggest WrestleMania in the history of this event, and not a single person is going to be happy about it. And the
yeah,
last, as you mentioned, the last time something like this happened, we got the yes movement because
yeah,
not a single person wanted to see Randy Orton versus Batista either,
yeah.
because it's not something that we want to see for a championship. We don't want we and I am so at a point with WWE, and I've mentioned this in the past, and I've mentioned this to you privately and to our group privately, that WWE WWE is the reason that most people are into wrestling. That is inarguable. The majority of the people who know what wrestling is know more about WWE than anything, because they create big stars who become mainstream and all of that. Any wrestling fan or non-wrestling fan knows what WWE is. The problem is that yes, WWE makes people into fans, but it doesn't evolve their fandom. But other wrestling does because other wrestling is interesting. WWE is just what it is. Sports entertainment. It's barely wrestling now. So, sure, it gets people into wrestling, but I don't think it keeps people into wrestling.
I don't mean to interrupt. I'm just reading a tweet and it just popped up here. Even Logan Paul just tweeted out, "We want Cody."
Oh
Oh
boy.
my gosh!
Even the biggest asshole in WWE
Finally,
is
something you and Logan Paul agree on.
even the
At least it
biggest
wasn't.
asshole in wrestling is upset about The Rock versus Roman Reigns.
Oh my god!
And
I think it's because Logan Paul's position is that he has a fallback beyond this contract with WWE, right? He's not vulnerable, so he could probably say a
mhm.
little more than what some of the other talent probably want to say.
And
Um,
if you read the reports, there's reports out there that morale is at an all-time low.
oh boy.
Not even just because of the Vince McMahon stuff, but now because of this. Because the majority of the people that work there understand that Cody has put in the work and understand that what the fans want is what's right for the company. And they're just doing exactly what Seth said. They're having a Hollywood match because
Oh yes.
one of the biggest stars in the history of anything, The Rock, who is looking for some positive outlook right now because he's not really looked at too positively these days when it comes to his acting career and some of the things he said about certain things, and him having a board seat now and basically putting himself into things that are hurting the company is not helpful.
Yeah,
And
I read that in terms of just backstage stuff, Brian Gewirtz, who was a longtime WWE head writer for like
yes.
years, was could be physically backstage at some point, representing I guess the Rock's interests, in this in terms of I guess what goes on at the show. So it's like, okay, we've taken out one person that had been around backstage for the longest time and we replaced it with somebody else. Although I don't think that Brian Gewirtz was that bad as a WWE writer, as far as I can remember his time there.
Mhm.
It was still like the heyday of the Attitude Era, kind of in the early 2000s.
Well, and he was
But
a
still,
big part. He was a big part of The Rock's on-screen work, and a lot of other people like Edge and Christian credit him for getting them to where they are. A lot of people from that time period. But yeah, it's just so disheartening that the guy that built his career on being the guy of the people is taking away from the people. And he even said in interviews that the reason that the match didn't happen last year was because the story didn't make sense. It makes even less sense now because they took another year to build up this Cody thing. That was the story that made sense. Now this doesn't.
that's a good point that you mentioned that like he the people's champion has effectively gone against the people. That's a new that might be the first time I've heard that one, but that's a very good point and it's very solid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that WWE is going to see the ripple effects of this. If this match happens, they're going to see the ripple effects of this for a long time because again, if it happens, Roman is 99% chance he's winning. And then we have to go into another year of Roman Reigns just holding the belt and wrestling 4 times a year. And this has really, really, really um, made long title reigns look bad
Yeah,
because
so a lot of people are saying, "Oh, Roman's gonna break Hogan's record. He's gonna break
that's
the
not.
San
It's not a
Martino reign."
record. It's
Okay, he's
not
gonna
a.
break. Yeah, but he's gonna break the San Martino reign. I'm like, but Bruno San Martino actually defended the title regularly across the country in various territories, as far as I
Well,
can.
in the Northeast.
Yeah, in the history, at least in the history of regional
Yeah,
promotional territory. But he was still defending it regularly. It's not like he shows up like 4 times a
and
year.
there is absolutely no way. There is absolutely no way that they are going to have Roman Reigns hold this championship for 7.5 years. There is absolutely no way. And at this point, 3 years is too long. 2 years was too long. I won't say that 1 year is too long because we get those a lot. We get 1 year title reigns a lot. But this has really made a lot of people realize short title reigns are not that bad.
Mm. Yeah.
Um, so it's just it is absolutely crazy
At
because
best, if they have him break Hogan's record, I think that would be
I mean he would be
yeah.
third. He would be third all time, but he would have to hold it until September, which is really long away. Um, but it's just, it, and I hate that this is because I don't hate Roman. I don't hate Roman at all. I've always liked Roman, even when people hated him. I've always liked Roman, and they're turning this bloodline storyline into something that it doesn't need to be. They had all this built up momentum in this storyline, and it just went out the window after I for me it was after WrestleMania 39, but a lot of people are just done with this. They're done with it. Half the things that are happening don't make sense. I mean, you had Jimmy Uso, who was the first person to turn on Roman Reigns, by the way,
Yeah.
just randomly back in the bloodline for no reason at all, with no explanation as to why. Uh, he attacked he attacked
He
Jay in a
cost
match.
Jay at SummerSlam in
He
the
he
title match.
cost he cost Jay at SummerSlam when the Bloodline was banned from the ring, which means he was banned from the ring.
Okay,
He's
yeah.
part of the Bloodline, so uh, then he's just back with Roman after he said, "Oh, I didn't want Jay to win the title because if Jay would have won the title, he would have turned out just like Roman Reigns."
I'm like,
What?
yeah, well, you got Roman Reigns right there. It's like, what are you talking about?
Exactly. None of it makes sense. So it's just going on for too long. And every single time this it comes up, when is the end of this story? When is it going to end? They say it's not even in the fifth inning. How can we not even be in the fifth inning if it's been 4.5 years? How? It's mind boggling to me. It's mind boggling to me that you could build something up for so long and have people be so positive on it and then overdo it with everything involved and have almost the entire fan base turn on it to the point now where it's just like we don't even want him to be a champion anymore because it's too much. It's too
And
much.
by the way, we are still almost 2 months away from WrestleMania. So we don't even know what the rest of the card is, and we already know that the main event's gonna suck if this is gonna unfold the way it is.
And we already know that Roman is not going to be appearing again
Yeah,
until.
WrestleMania.
So how are you going to build this up in the next 2 months when you got two part-timers in the match.
Yeah,
It
like so WWE's heading to Australia for the first time in who knows how long to do Elimination Chamber
uh
in
a
Perth.
couple of years.
Yeah.
They had that super
So
showdown in
yeah,
like
I mean, other than like
2016.
the men's and women's elimination chamber match, like I don't know, like where's that leading to? Is what's the elimination chamber match for? If Cody's gonna face Seth, then what's the elimination chamber match for? The United States Championship? That's the most reasonable
Uh
path,
I mean, yeah,
unless yes, but it's like I mean my idea would have been um originally if they were gonna do this Rock Roman debacle, Cody faces Roman, and then let's make a blockbuster trade. Woo! Let's trade over the megastar LA Knight because
mhm.
LA Knight's been
Yeah.
doing some
So
incredible work
I mean,
himself.
we're gonna
Yes,
be
Seth
doing
Rollins. Yeah.
we're gonna
Anyway,
be doing our WrestleMania card predictions in
yeah,
our
we
next
will
show.
see what
But
this
and
ridiculous press conference will unfold and see
yeah,
if they
but
figure
even
out the
but
way to fix this.
before all this, my thought was that all right, CM Punk is out, so and you have this storyline going on with Drew and Sammy, just have a triple threat with Sammy, Drew, and Seth.
Hmm.
That would have been great. And then you could have even crowned Sammy off of that if you wanted to, because it would have been at least something that the fans would have something that the fans wanted last year that and didn't get. And then you have Cody as champion and you have Sammy as champion. That would have been great. But we're not getting either of those things. So I think we have reached our limit on this topic. Um,
That's no kidding. We could probably go for hours on this, but
oh,
yeah,
of
but
course.
it's like
I I am fully just no longer invested in anything going on SmackDown in particular. But even now, how am I even going to enjoy Raw knowing that the main thing going on over there is Cody was tossed aside and is going for a championship that he doesn't even want and is most likely going to win because the guy he's fighting is hurt.
well, if I can throw in a shameless plug here, if you're looking for alternatives, please tune into TNA Impact on Thursdays on Access TV, where you can catch riveting storylines such as Steve Macklin joining the Rascals. That's an odd couple if they're together.
Riveting. Absolutely riveting.
We can see,
But
we can see perhaps Jordan Grace will be uh, defending her Knockouts World Title against Giselle Shaw at No Surrender. So maybe Giselle will finally
uh-huh.
become the quintessential champion that she deserves to be.
Or or on the 11th of this month, you can watch the rematch between Brian Danielson and Zack Sabre Jr. because at least that will be good.
I would even say tune into February 4th Sunday tomorrow after we finish recording on Vengeance Day, where I think there are some pretty okay matches to go through there. Even in
Uh
NXT, there is something a little better going on than what's going on in the main roster at the moment.
yeah. So the point of the matter is there's a lot of wrestling out there that doesn't disappoint you. So you can go and watch all of those and have a great time and not get angry.
Okay, and I think with that,
So
that's
yes,
uh,
so with
yeah,
that,
yeah.
we are gonna call it a show, and don't forget to go to our linktree slash going over big time podcast. It has all of the ways that you can listen to and watch this podcast, as well as our social medias for the show and for us and Tanner. And yeah, that's going to do it for us. Um, Remember, watch the wrestling that you want to watch, not the wrestling that everybody tells you to watch, especially after today.
I'm pretty sure at this point, people who listen to us and fans around the world do watch the wrestling they want to watch. Um, unless you're buying tickets to a WWE live event, then at this point it might be somebody telling you to go. Okay, I'm done.
Uh, all right, that's gonna do it for us, everybody. Have a good one.